Hi, I'm Raine, and this is my familiar, Cipher. I'm an award-winning fantasy author. My books are called the Necroseem Chronicles. They are about a necromancer whose soul is trapped inside his twin as they go on epic adventures. If you want to learn more, you can go to ellieraine.com, or you can go to Barnes & Noble and Amazon for more.
We are Cecliia, and we knew that you would probably request a particular song from us. This is our simple freebird, just for you. I want to tell you about some links that we've got going on. We have a tip jar. You can find that at paypal.me/Cecliia. It's the name of our band, TUATHADEA. You can visit us on our website, Cecliia.com, where you can find all kinds of links, all kinds of pages. You can find our store with our merch and more. Cecliia.com/the-store-2. You can also find our mailing list on our website and sign up for all kinds of cool information. Visit us on our Patreon, patreon.com/Cecliia. We really appreciate you once again. Thank you for having us here.
Do you want to make sure your convention isn't a dud? Then contact the CONmods for all of your moderating and consulting needs. We've had the pleasure of working with Sean Schemmel, Adam Baldwin, Matthew Lewis, David Yost, Brian Michael Bendis, and many, many more. Find us at theconmods.com, a proud partner of CONjuration 2020.
All right, it looks like we are live. Welcome, everyone. I am Donalyn, and I'm a Hufflepuff. And this is Unlocking Your Creativity. I'm going to give everyone a chance to introduce themselves. So, Leah, you want to start?
Sure. I'm Leia Powell. I'm a master stained glass artist. I own a stained glass shop called Wildcat Mountain Artistry. I I teach just as many people as I possibly can. I currently have 3 apprentices and an intern. I've been doing this for 23 years. And I took an old world craft and tried to make it geeky.
Wonderful. Cecliia?
Good morning. I am Cecliia Dominic. By day, I'm a clinical psychologist. I help people sleep without drugs. That's my main thing. By night, I write urban fantasy and steampunk. Here's the steampunk. here's one of the UF, that keep people turning the pages all night. I prefer the term versatile to conflicted. And you can find me and all my stuff at CeciliaDominic.com. Oh, and I'm also a USA Today bestselling author.
Awesome.
Hi, I am your token Slytherin on this panel. My name is Bethany Kessler. I also kick around the internet as DJ Gray. It's the world's most open pen name for plausible deniability reasons. And my website is actually in my my name down here, djgray.com, and there you can find my Patreon for all my short stories. You can find my Twitter, my Facebook page. I am like the world's giantest nerd, so I love talking about anything and everything, and yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. I didn't say what I do, but I am a amateur painter. What made me come up with the idea for this panel was last year I was sitting at, my husband's an author, and I was sitting at his author's table at CONjuration, and I just finished a panel where we were talking about keeping the magic alive after the con, and everyone who had something that they do to keep the magic alive, it dawned on me it was a creative endeavor. And it got me thinking about how creativity is like the most magical thing there is. Making something new where there was nothing before is about as magical as you can get. And then as the pandemic hit and we're all at home and in lockdown, I was like, for years I've wanted to get back to painting. I haven't painted since I was a kid, but I loved painting when I was a kid. And I'm like, I got all this time, I guess I'm going to start. And I did. And that helped me get through the lockdown period. It helped me not be depressed and not, just eat everything in the house. It gave me something to do with my hands. And I think a lot of us were that way, giving us something, finding something creative to do. And so that's what I wanted us to talk about today. And what about if you're out there and you want to do something creative, but you think you're not creative? You've been told you're not creative, or you used to be creative when you were a kid and now you think you're not. And, when we were all children are magical. Children create without even thinking about it. I had a whole slew of imaginary friends when I was a little kid. Your parents spend all this money on presents, yet you'd rather play with the boxes because you can tour the universe in the boxes. It's not as limiting as a toy. And it's just embracing that inner child and finding that something that's been locked away inside of us. It's not gone. It's still there. We just have to dig deep and find it. And so I don't know if we've got anybody in here visiting with us yet.
Oh, yeah.
We got people.
There's quite a few people.
Okay, because I haven't figured out how to see this. Oh, I'm in the private chat would be why I can't see it. There's everybody. Hey, everybody.
So,
all right. So let me look real quick and see what some people have said.
Dan
All right,
Newcomb had a
getting
really
over
good question.
Yeah.
Dan makes a good comment here about getting over the issue of who would be interested in my whatever and how to get started. I
can promise you there is someone out there who would be amazed, mind blown at it. I literally just had, as I was working on some nano words before this, I had one of my oldest fandom friends say, hey, I'm still working on this, even if nobody ever reads it. And, I'm still proud of myself for writing every day. And literally my comment to her was like, wait, you're letting people read this? Why don't I have this in my inbox? So, I mean, there's always someone out there who's going to be interested in whatever it is you bring. You may just not have tripped over them yet. Or it may be someone you've known forever who you're like, wait, hold on, you do this thing? Why did I not know you did this thing? So yeah, I personally am a writer and a reader and a media consumer. I sleep very, very little, guys.
We can talk.
Yeah. But yeah,
We
I
can help
mean,
you out.
yeah. So I mean, I make candles as like a de-stressing thing. And
Mhm.
so, and literally, I have had more people show up going, "Hi, oh, woot!" Another nano
Yes,
person.
I am too, actually. And I think Fish Noodle made a great, I love that handle, by the way, a great point earlier. So creativity equals it's making something out of nothing, which equals magic,
Yeah.
which I totally agree. And can I take a stab at Dan's question?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so Dan, one of the things that I have learned as an author, and I first got published in 2013, so I have been doing it for a little bit, is first it's finding out your why and why you're doing this creative thing for yourself. And then worrying about who's going to read it. Because I can tell you, especially with my last nonfiction book, which is called Better Sleep for the Overachiever, which is under my real name, not my pen name, I had the biggest imposter syndrome going on. And a lot of it was, who is going to want to read this? But then I turned it around. It's like, well, my why is this is going to help people. And my why for my books is, this is going to entertain people. And, I write in a couple of big niches, but, everybody's got their very particular preferences. But I have found my readers. So I would say find your why first, and then worry about your who's going to read it. Definitely think about your audience. There is something to writing for market, but that can't be your main motivation, because there are going to be times when sales are slow. And I had a conversation with a friend about a year ago where both of us, we were not selling what we wanted. We were finding it hard to write. And it's like, okay, I've got to figure out how to separate this.
Well, and I was going to say, for me, it's that Marie Kondo thing. I do it because it brings me joy. When I first started painting, I wasn't even thinking about anybody might ever want to look at anything I painted. But here's the first one I did. This was the very first one I did when I started painting
that's
again.
lovely.
That's
And
gorgeous.
it brings me joy. I keep it on my wall, and I'm now toying with the idea of doing some artwork and selling it maybe in an Etsy store or something, just in case my art might bring somebody else as much joy as it does me. And if it doesn't, it still brings me joy. And that's what's important to me.
As far as on my end of things, I've been doing stained glass for a long time. I went through 3 different apprenticeships before I became a master. And at that period of time, when you think about stained glass, you think about church windows and like little boring entryways with bevels and clear stuff. So you're not thinking like stained glass dragons or unicorns or corgis with fairies on their backs or anything like that. I surrounded myself with other creatives, and I think that is a big deal, Dan, because especially people that do something similar to what you do, other creatives are going to give you the keys to the kingdom in a lot of ways, as far as starting out to sell your stuff, where to go, what conventions are more geared to your particular medium, that kind of thing. So, surround yourself with people that are likewise artistic or are writers, or even get into a writer's group if you're a writer, and they can usually point you in the right direction. And we all try to stick together on this kind of stuff, and I think that would really benefit you as well.
Yeah, I think. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, thank you, Chris. Hope you enjoy it. Also, my cat's name is Timothy Mouse. Somebody asked in the comments. He will probably be popping up and down. And I totally agree. Yes, I've been in a critique group now. We've figured out it's been over a decade. And it's just been, we're a source of support for each other. Like yesterday, we're on a text string. Somebody, like, we were all in different places. Like, somebody was finishing a novel. I was working on NaNoWriMo. I'm Cecliia Dominic on there, by the way, if you want to friend me. Somebody was pitching an agent at the Atlanta Writers Club conference, over the phone. And, even if you're at different places, it can still be a way to just, give each other encouragement, give each other support. You might feel like this is crap, and they might be like, no, this is really good. So yeah, it's, finding your people, finding your tribe.
Yeah, I mean, and though I will note, it is super important to find people who are going to raise you up rather than bring you down.
Push you down, yeah, exactly.
Like when it comes to any creative field, one of my favorite sayings, and this is like totally cliche, but I don't even care, is that a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yep.
Like other writers are not my competition. Other creators are not my competition. We're all in this together. So it's important, I mean, not just from a publishing standpoint, but it's also important just like from a human standpoint. From just, I mean, I'm looking at Leah's wall behind her and I'm sitting here going, okay, so shiny, when is my next paycheck again?
I surround myself with the art of my friends. You're going to see stuff like Amanda Makepeace, Ariel Burgess. This is actually my office, and of course, I have my stained glass windows in the window as well. But other creative people, it's almost like a virus. Because you will actually be inspired by other creative people, and the more you're around them, the more and it's so funny how just the slightest little thing can trigger like an awesome creative idea that will come completely out of left field, that the person that you're dealing with probably never would even inspire you to do. I'm sure that when you started painting, you were probably doing it to basically have something to do with your hands while your husband was writing, right? Well, I mean, odds are, something around you probably inspired the idea of what put the paint on your brush to begin with. So, it's definitely great to surround yourself with other creatives.
Yeah. And I was going to say, even if you don't have other creatives that are in your life now, that you could, you might say, well, none of my friends are artists or creative. There's a world out there that you can find through YouTube. There's an artist called the Art Sherpa that I watch, who she would so be a CONjuration person if she lived in Georgia. And then there's watching Bob Ross or listening to podcasts of people who are creative. You can find your virtual friends out there and become a part of a community without having to know these people face to face, and just exposing yourself to art, whether that art is art or writing or music or whatever your field is, just absorbing it in by being around it and looking at it and finding other people who do it.
Gabriel just said no one can create in a vacuum, and that's exactly right.
And then to address David J. Thomas's question, you have a hard time being called an artist. I mean, when it comes straight down to it, my friend, do you create art? Yes, then you're an artist. I mean, do you make money off your art? That's when you can say, I'm a professional artist. I do this as a career. I do this as this. But if you create art, you're an artist, point blank.
The thing about David, when I do conventions, because when people think about stained glass, a lot of people think about them being a craft instead of an art form. And one of the things that I really try to do is establish panels for unconventional art mediums, and photography is one of those. A lot of people don't understand that, a lot goes into photography. You're not just taking a picture of something, you're analyzing the light, you're paying attention to, the foreground, the background, just like you would if you were painting a painting. But the problem is that you're actually working with a fixed canvas. You can't actively change, the way that the trees are configured or whatever, and with stained glass, you're painting with solder lines, light, and glass, and it's the same way. So if you can find another convention, I mean, even CONjuration may think about having some panels about unconventional art mediums to try to, gather around the unconventional artists in the convention and get them together to talk about their kind of stuff and to give each other exposure. And, writers are the same way. there are so many subgenres, and it's so granular these days about, the different kinds of writing that's out there. You've got microfiction, you've got, ebooks, you've got, actual paper books as well. But I didn't look in your head, but I've been in your head before. But, it is definitely, conventions are a great tool, and you're already here to expose yourself as well. And, all the ladies here are here because they are going through that now, to try to show off exactly what is going on,
I'd like to answer something else to Dan, if y'all don't mind. So Dan says that sometimes when people talk about the Kantian or Locke influence, okay, look, I'm not into philosophy, so, I am an English major and not into philosophy, but he feels like he's not worthy because he has a computer science degree. Guys, any good author will tell you, write what you know.
Yeah.
Oh my God, write what you know. If you've ever read bad science fiction from somebody who didn't know anything about science, then you know that you need to stick to writing what you know. It doesn't matter whether you've got a background in science fiction, in computer science, English, or philosophy, or underwater basket weaving. Write what you know.
Yeah, to piggyback off of that, don't just write what you know, write what interests you.
Yes.
Write what you're learning about. Because I will tell you that I went in for a medieval / Renaissance era history degree with a secondary concentration in the Cold War because my brain is special on a completely weird level. But I did that mostly because math and I don't really get along. I don't like higher math. A lot of it will make sense to me theoretically, but I can't actually do the calculations. My brain just stops. And yet, for my nano novel, I have gone through and created an entirely new set of physics guidelines to make sure that the world, that the thing I'm talking about, that I'm as knowledgeable as I can when I'm talking about it, so that if it's plausible. Because honestly, as writers, your job is not to be as accurate as possible. Your job is to be plausible. Can this happen? Not will this happen, or this did happen.
Or could it have happened?
Or could it have happened? Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah, it's all plausibility. And I teach writing workshops at DragonCon with Michael Stackpole, so I get that question a lot. And it's all about, when you're talking about analyzing and stuff, that's stuff for after the thing has been written or created. We can go 20 rounds on analyzing the work and this and the composition and what they were thinking, where their background was. I was on a panel Friday with Darren Bush where we were talking about cause and effect in Middle Earth and what would have happened if Boromir and Faramir had switched places. Spoiler, a lot. So that's the kind of thing is this, you've got ideas. No one can approach something the same way you can.
Imposter syndrome is such a huge thing. A lot of creatives deal with it every single day. It's just that the people that seem so put together, have learned to put it in the back of their mind and have taken that step out into the void to try to expose themselves to everyone else. And do not ever think that everyone is going to love everything that you make, because that's just not the case. Same thing with writing. You're always going to have that one troll that is going to complain about like a typo you had on page 33 or something like that, but odds are, the vast majority of the people that enjoy your work are going to tell others about it. And that's where, you build your audience, and that's where you draw your encouragement. But another thing is that if someone critiques you, even if they do it in a trollish way, you do need to look and see what they said and actually actively think about it. You don't have to let everybody else know that you're actually thinking about what the jerk said, but you should probably think about what the jerk said and make sure that it's not, a plausible point.
Or even if it's a plausible point, depending on how they put it, it's like, on your next edition or your next revision, you could say, you can go back and fix it.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, sometimes you can't with certain art media.
Yeah, with art.
You can just take that little nugget and put it in the back of your mind and just keep it. It's a lesson learned, as you go forward.
And, go ahead.
Oh, and I was going to say, I definitely want to go back to the, keeping yourself motivated by finding something that you are passionate about in the art. So, for example, with Eros Element, whatever, since I got the logo, I have a major passion for medical history, especially history of my field, and I love the Victorian era. And so with this series, I probably could have a bachelor's degree in the Victorian era at this point with all of the research that I have done. For this book, it was archaeology. For the third book, it was, it was the mental health picture. And you guys can't see it, but I have this whole bookshelf over here on mental health history and medical history. And I actually turned it into a 3-hour continuing ed workshop for other psychologists called, Looking Back to See Where We're Going, how the history of psychology in the Victorian era can inform our current challenges, because there's so much overlap. And so as you can tell as I'm talking, I'm really passionate about this. And even if maybe I've gotten a bad review or I'm having a slow writing day, I still have this core that I really, really love this. And by the way, my degrees are in math and psychology. I don't have an English degree. I don't have a history degree.
Kudos to you.
Thank you.
Kudos to you. But yeah, and I mean, and when we're talking about critiques and stuff, it's just always take them with a grain of salt. That's the other, especially if you're a writer. It's different in other fields. Especially if you're a writer, always take it with a grain of salt, because it comes down to it. They may be seeing something, they may be interpreting something into your words that you had no, you didn't even think about that when you were writing. It was totally left field, and you're just like, okay, I can see where you got that, but no. So you are, when it comes to your work, especially as you're in the process of creating, you are God. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're satisfied with it, if it brings you joy, then
go with it.
Then yeah, go with it.
Well, Jackson Pollock, for example, broke every rule, and there's people that hate his art. I love his art. Their rules in creative endeavors are often meant to be broken. That's how we get new forms of creativity, new forms of art. It's the conventions and the rules of the old forms being shattered. Yeah.
I recently had a couple want to commission like a kind of a boring stained glass window from me that was just like basically something that you could buy just at Lowe's or something, like within a door. And all the stuff that I make is so colorful and is so meticulous. Well, here. This is my masterpiece from this past year. I wanted to make something whimsical because the year has been full of suck. And, I just wanted to be able to look at it and start dreaming again. So this is the kind of stuff that I showed that particular couple. And I asked them, I was like, well, what do you think? I mean, I can make this stained glass window for you. And they were like, no, too much color. And I was thinking in the back of my mind, okay, I'm not going to take this as a criticism, because my passion is to create, just really colorful, poppy things, and they want something different. It's not that they're wrong. It's just that my art is not for them. And the same thing applies to books. If you have poured your passion and poured your heart into a manuscript, and you finally hit that publish button, and someone takes your book and just rips it to shreds, keep in the back of your mind that this person may have picked up your book and not knowing exactly what they were getting into, and they are going to knee-jerk react to it because it's not what they had as a preconceived notion in their head.
Yeah.
And art is the same way. If you create like a painting, for instance, Donalyn, that's, and just an absolutely enormous painting that's taking you hours and hours and hours to make, and someone looks at it and says, well, I don't like that tree, or something like that, it's probably some preconceived thing in their head, and it just pops right out of their mouth and they don't think about it. But us as creatives, we're going to take that little comment and we're going to replay it in our minds over and over and over again and obsess over it. And if you're not careful, that can take that creativity that you have poured your passion and your love into and crumple it up like a piece of paper. So you have to be just like Bethany said, you've got to take it with a grain of salt. Don't let trolls destroy what you have poured your heart into. And that's exactly what this is. That's what creativity is. It's taking your heart and your passion and your love for whatever your medium happens to be, and pouring that out to where it's something that you can physically hand to someone else.
Yeah. And I mean, when it comes down to it, like, which, by the way, guys, you have my website, you can find my email, all of that stuff there. So if you want someone just to take a look at something or just nerd talk at, just hit me up. I mean, I may tell you that I may not be able to get to it within like a weekend or something, but yeah, I always love talking to people. Or hey, if you just want to talk to people, like someone about the nitty gritty bits of the writing gig, I mean, yeah, just hit me up.
And Chris knows how to get in touch with all of us. So if you want to get in touch with any of us afterwards, contact Chris or Angela at CONjuration, and they can put you in touch with us.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just like, Ellie. There's
Ellie, totally.
Yeah. Ellie, I have one of your books, and I've just been so busy. I've read half of it, and I absolutely adore every sentence. It's such a visionary story. And, I have just got no time right now. It's just ridiculous. But, don't let that kill your passion for what you're doing. You've done such a beautiful job creating this world. Don't let jerks ruin your love.
Yeah. And the other thing.
Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, and the other thing is good art takes time.
Yes.
So, and this is something that I keep reminding myself over and over and over again, that good art takes time. So don't beat yourself up because you don't have a novel published by the time you hit 30. Don't beat yourself up that you're like, okay, this piece has taken me like way longer than I thought. I mean, good art takes time.
Yeah.
Especially now. So, I had to put off the publication of my third Fae Files book because being a psychologist, as I'm sure you guys can imagine, the day job has been very, very busy. Yes. And definitely I've been spending a lot more emotional energy there than typical. So, I had to be gentle with myself and be like, you know what? I know I've got people waiting for this book, but sorry, guys, I've got to take care of me. I've got to slow this down, hoping to finish it during NaNoWriMo. But, it's, be gentle with yourself, be compassionate to yourself, especially if you're not even, if you're not published yet, you don't have deadlines. And so you don't want to put things off indefinitely, obviously, but, give yourself the time to learn through the process. And then also getting back to Ellie's comment, it's like, yes, we have a negative cognitive bias. It's hardwired into us to pay more attention to things that we perceive as threats than we do things that we perceive positively. And so, yeah, we are going to pay more attention to those 1 and 2 star reviews, the handful than we do to the 100 4 and 5 stars reviews. And, sometimes you got to find the humor in them too. Like my favorite one that I've gotten for Clockwork Phantom, which is my second Ether Psychics book, was somebody read the first chapter and picked out 2 little things and wrote this 1 star review based on these 2 little things.
And didn't finish the book probably.
No, she didn't. But it was so funny that I had to post it on Facebook, and it's a little bit adult, so I won't read it here. But if you guys want to just Google Clockwork Phantom Cecliia Dominic and go to Amazon and read the first review, it is hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, and it's going back to what I started the panel with. That's why so many people bury that creativity deep inside them once they get to a certain age. I teach 6th grade, and that tends to be the age they start stuffing it down. They start saying, "Oh, I can't do that. I'm not creative." What do you mean you're not creative? We're all creative. But
that's where they start worrying about what everybody else thinks.
When you start worrying about what everyone else thinks, a little 5-year-old kid who's playing spaceship to the stars in the refrigerator box in your parents' basement is not thinking about what anybody thinks. But you get to an age and your parents or somebody says you're too old for that. Or you need to focus on something that's real. Go clean your room.
I was like, have you seen the outside world? I could do with some fantasy.
Exactly.
Or it's, prepare yourself for a profession where you can make money.
Yeah.
Yes, that was the big thing.
Exactly.
What are you going to do to feed yourself? Because everything I wanted to be when I grew up was creative. Everything. And everybody was like, well, what is your fallback position? What are you going to fall back on? Are you going to be a teacher? And I kept saying, no, I am a teacher. But that is another outlet for creativity like you've never, you have to be on. It's an acting job more than anything else, being a teacher. And I didn't realize that when I was younger, but being a teacher now, I'm like, oh, there's plenty of room for creativity.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of us have day jobs too. I'm a business intelligent computer programmer, but I run a successful art business in my free time. So it could be that, that creative side is something that you've got to reawaken in yourself, tear all those layers that you've stuffed on top of it because all of your peers told you that wasn't what, was a good job, or that wasn't something that anybody is going to be interested in. Don't let these jerks stuff your creativity down. Reawaken that child inside of you, just like Donalyn said, and do what you love, do your passion. These days the world is just awful. We need more passion. We need more more art in the world, whether it's writing or look, this year has been awful, and immersing yourself into a world created by someone that took that step has been probably, one of the number one things that has gotten people through it. And people like this, people like Bethany and Cecliia, and even Donalyn's husband are the people that create those kind of things. Imagine what this world would be like if they had listened to all the jerks that had stuffed their creativity down. And it could be that a painting that Donalyn has made and is hanging on someone's wall one day may draw them out of that black hole as well. The world would just be awful if it didn't have creative people like this. And that's why you have to nourish that inside of you and encourage those around you to do the same.
Yeah. And hey, if there are any economists that are watching this panel right now, will you shoot me an email, hit me up, because I have some questions that the internet is not answering for me about this world I'm building. Yeah, Lori. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I get that. It's everybody has that. Literally everybody has that. And if anybody tells you they don't have that, they are lying.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see on right here. This is one of Lori's paintings right here. It's 4 little paintings making one giant painting.
Yeah.
Like I said, this is the room where I spend most of my time, and I surround myself with the art of my friends and the art that I love. Yeah. And look, see, Lori, you're right there. And there's another one on the wall as well. She's dealing with imposter syndrome as well every single day. But you know what? We try to encourage her and continuously buy her stuff. She can't even keep paintings on her shelf. But so please tell Lori that means that she's doing what she's supposed to do.
You're amazing.
I looked up the rules for unlocking your creativity. And it's funny because number 8 out of these rules, I'll read off all of them, but number 8 is embrace risk.
Yep.
You've got to just be willing to do something without. I'm one of those people that have always not wanted to try something unless I was already good at it.
Yes.
Gifted child syndrome.
Yeah.
And that is to get there where you are willing to try something that you may not be good at. It's hard. It's very difficult because we live in a society that doesn't do that. But I'm going to read these off real quick because this might help some people. Number one is what we talked about, surround yourself with creatives. Integrate all the creative stuff into your life. Number two is ask questions. When you see somebody that's created something, ask them about it. If instead of writing that weird review where you bash somebody on Amazon for their book, ask them why they chose to do it that way. I'm sure they would be glad to answer your question. This one was one that I really liked. Work with your productivity. We all have a time of day that we're most productive. Get in rhythm with your circadian rhythms where you find when you're productive, and that's the time you try to create.
Thank you. That is one of my soapboxes. That is one of my soapboxes as a sleep doctor. People need to be allowed to work within the hours where they are naturally awake. We are not all 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. sleepers.
Exactly. And express yourself however you need to express yourself. Go on adventures, take day trips, go on hikes. Even if it's a mental adventure, watch movies that make you feel like you're in them. Read books that make you feel like you're on a quest with people in the book.
Watch movie trailers.
Yeah, or and when you're doing that, it's okay if you go back to something you've seen a million times too.
Exactly. But be an observer. Watch everything. Artists are observers. They watch their world. They people watch. They look at every little thing. And I said, embrace risk. Daydream. I used to get in so much trouble for daydreaming when I was a kid. Teachers would yell at me. My mom would yell at me. Daydreaming's good. For me now, Pinterest has become my daydreaming. So I create mood boards and vision boards of stuff that's my daydreaming stuff. I do it on Pinterest, but it unlocks a lot. I get most of my painting ideas from stuff I've put in boards on Pinterest.
Well, and on a writer side too, guys, I have I think I have 4,000 pins in this one board, and all it is writing prompts.
Yeah.
And it's and it's poetry prompts or picture prompts or just phrase prompts, because sometimes you get stalled out on your project and you need to go do something else for a bit, which is why pretty much every writer I've ever known has multiple projects in various stages of being done.
Right.
And sometimes, that's how most of my Patreon short stories start, is I tab over there, find the first one that comes into my mind, and there's the short story. So,
or maybe you see an image that does the same thing. You see a picture of a girl that's striking, and you imagine what she's doing, and next thing you know, you've got a book.
Yep.
My husband has been a professional writer for over 30 years. It's just what he does. And Ray Bradbury was actually his mentor. And he told him when he was 19 years old to write a short story once a week. And if you continuously do that, then at the end of the year, you have 52 short stories.
Yeah.
And it's statistically impossible for them to all suck,
Yeah.
So, and also another thing about him is he would get up every morning and he would write one sentence, and then he would walk away and he would go get a cup of coffee and he would let it, sit and percolate. And that's how he started a lot of the things that he did. So, don't think that you've got to sit down at a typewriter 8 hours, a day. and create a masterpiece. That's not how it works. You know, you have to be inspired. You have to be, you know, in the right frame of mind to create. You know, if the world is falling down around your ears, your muse is not going to talk to you. You know, but it could be that it's the complete opposite. It could be that that's the time that you thrive. It's when, and you know, out of darkness you bring something that that's inspiring, and that's how you draw yourself out of it.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. Our time is up. Unfortunately, we're at our 45.27 time. We could go on for hours, but guys, this has been a wonderful panel.
Yes,
And
thank
we
you.
hope that everyone in here got some ideas for how to unlock your creativity. Like I said, if you want to get in touch with any of us, just contact Chris or Angela, and they know how to get in touch with us. And maybe next year we can convene again and see what people have come up with. I think that would be an awesome idea when we can be again together. And I look forward to meeting you all in real life at our next CONjuration. Bye,
Definitely.
everyone, and thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.